Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm joined today by Scott Ritter, a former US Marine, intelligence officer, and the UN weapons inspector. It's good to have you back on. We see now that Israel has attacked Iran in a massive surprise attack, an illegal war of aggression with consequences we certainly cannot predict yet. But what do we know so far? What were the targets, and what is the extent of damage to Iran?
Well, what we know is that this was not a spontaneous act by Israel, but rather a well-planned action that has been over a year in the preparation, and that it has apparently been closely coordinated with the United States in every aspect of this strike. Um, we also know that this was a very sophisticated attack, not just in terms of the technology used to deliver kinetic damage to Iran, but that this attack has incorporated um, a decapitation element to specifically eliminate targeted personalities from the Iranian government, people who uh, would be at the center of strategic decision making. Um, this attack, I believe, is a precursor for a campaign whose objective goes beyond simply seeking to um, eliminate Iran's nuclear infrastructure and the potential threat derived from such. I believe this is a campaign whose ultimate objective is regime change in Iran, because from the Israeli perspective, Israel will only be secure once the existing theocracy in Iran has been removed from power. So this is an existential struggle, and I think it's important for people who are watching what's happening to understand that this is not a conflict that can end in negotiation. This is a conflict that only ends in death and destruction of one of the two nations currently involved. Either Israel is fundamentally defeated and eliminated as a regional threat, or Iran is fundamentally defeated and eliminated as a regional threat. At this juncture, I don't see any middle ground.
One of the targets besides military leadership, some civilian targets, but the nuclear reactors, I guess, is the most important thing. Do we know anything yet about radiation leaks or anything like this?
Well, initially, the international, no, I'm sorry, the Iraqi or the Iranian um, nuclear organization reported that there was no radiation leaks, but now apparently there is some radiation leaks being detected from at least one of the halls um, at Natanz, which is Iran's first nuclear enrichment facility, and for a while was its main nuclear enrichment facility. It has some underground enrichment, cascade production areas um, that were considered to be protected from attack, but taking a look at some of the Israeli bunker busting munitions that were apparently dropped on Natanz, it appears that they were successful in at least collapsing one of these structures. And there is apparently radiation has been detected.
And the missiles of Iran, because of course they have very powerful retaliatory capabilities, but it's said to be stored mostly underground. Do we know anything yet about this, and to what extent the Israelis were able to destroy Iranian missiles?
Well, what is clear is that Israel has targeted um, most, if not all, of the Iranian so-called missile cities and these underground missile storage areas. Moreover, Iran had a certain level of retaliatory capacity that was deployed already in the field, awaiting orders. And it appears that these missiles likewise have been targeted by Israel, both using bunker busting munitions. Um, but apparently, there was a significant Israeli special forces presence on the ground. Video has emerged, released by the Israelis, that show what appear to be special operations forces setting up what are known as spike missiles, which is a line of sight anti tank weapon that can be used for a number of other tasks. And apparently, These special forces have been monitoring and tracking Iran's mobile ballistic missile strike capability and have eliminated them using a combination of drones and these spike missiles. But again, it just shows the degree to which these operations are planned. I can tell you from personal experience that you just simply don't wake up and deploy a special operations force willy-nilly into um, the depths of a hostile nation. That these missions require extensive planning, the infiltration, the exfiltration, and operating on the ground without being detected all require not just great skill and courage on the part of the operator on the ground, but preparation on the part of those who, are responsible for getting them in and getting them out.
No, it seems to be a very well planned and sophisticated surprise attack, but certainly an Iranian retaliation will come. Do we know uh, how Iran might retaliate? Will it go after Israel's nuclear reactors, US bases in the region, Arab states which it assists in I guess defending Israel? Or I know it's a lot of speculation at this point, but what might we expect to see today or in the coming days?
Well, gosh, I mean, if I'm a boxer training for a match, I'm going to, develop a repertoire. Jab, 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 uppercut, hook, all the different punches I have that I can use depending on how you present yourself as a target. Um, but going in, if you amputate one of my arms and you rip the rotator cuff on the other one and rip the tricep and all that, suddenly I don't have as many punches available to me. How many punches does Iran have right now? You know, Iran has spoken about, if it were attacked, that if its nuclear infrastructure was attacked, that it would eliminate the oil production uh, capacity in the Middle East, thereby threatening energy security for the world. They haven't done anything. Um, we were told that if the United States was involved in any aspect of an Israeli attack, that American facilities in the region would be subjected to, a deadly retaliation. Haven't seen anything. We were told that the Israeli nation itself would feel a relentless, horrific response that threatened its very existence. We haven't seen anything. Now, is this because the Iranians are planning, or is it the fact that many of their punches have been removed? I don't think Iran has the capacity to do everything that it promised to do. I don't believe Iran can, for instance, take out Israel um, and take out American military installations in the region. The same thing. I don't believe Iran has the capacity now to start destroying oil production in the region. I think Iran has to um, take stock of what, if anything, is left to it in terms of retaliatory capacity, and then prioritize. Right now, we have a conflict that could be limited simply to Israel. Um, Iran would have to make a decision because I can guarantee with 100% certainty that if Iran attacks an American military installation in the region, the full weight of the United States military will be brought to bear on Iran. And if you think what you saw take place in Iran last night was tough, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's no power in the world that can project power in a more violent fashion than the United States of America. And we've been preparing for a military strike against Iran for well over a year. General Kurilla has already briefed President Trump on the strike options. The resources are there, the bombs are there, and some of these weapons could be nuclear. American weapons could be nuclear, and in nature. The only way to destroy Firdos, for instance, the underground nuclear enrichment facility, is with a nuclear bomb. The only way to destroy some of the other facilities would be through a nuclear weapon. Israel clearly hasn't used a nuclear weapon, nor would it be likely Israel would use a nuclear weapon. I think Israel's playing the longer game. Rather than destroying Firdos, they're seeking to eliminate the government, and then in post-conflict negotiations have Firdos eliminated through inspections, etc. But if you attack American facilities and inflict casualties on Americans, the United States will come down like a load of bricks. And I think the one thing that Iran has to understand right now is it has no air defense. The Israelis, through the use of innovative drone technology and tactics, successfully and wiped out Iranian air defense. Iran is literally a defenseless nation. The only defense it has is its ability to project a meaningful offensive strike capability. And right now, it's unknown how much of that, if any, remains. I do believe that if there is a strike capacity left, that Iran will focus almost singularly on taking out Israeli targets, punishing Israel for what they've done. Um, but the idea that Iran is going to do this broad brush attack of all the targets, I think that that's no longer viable because I think Israel has successfully interdicted a significant aspect of Iran's potential retaliation capacity.
You mentioned before, you spoke about American culpability, but there's been some mixed signals there. Marco Rubio's come out, said, this was done by Israel alone, while Trump has been tweeting out a bit cryptic tweets, but nonetheless, it seems kind of evident by the language that the United States has, well, not only known about this, but also to some extent participated. Again, the way he writes, it's very hard to yeah to say anything with certainty. But is there any possibility that the United States was not involved in this attack?
Not at all. Um, the United States was involved in this attack. We have, there's only one commander in chief. And while, one can respect Marco Rubio as a Secretary of State, understand this. Um, Even as Secretary of State, he's not knowledgeable of everything the United States agrees upon. And much of the interaction that's been taking place has been outside the purview of Marco Rubio. And his job is to provide cover for the president, deniability for them. But then he's undone by the president, who just comes out and straight up tweets, "We did it. I warned you. 60 days. It's now the 61st day. Aha. Well, there you go, Donnie. So you were involved. All those weapons that Israel used, we gave it to them, knowing they were going to take out the leadership and targets. Don't you mess with America." This is, I mean, literally, I spoke earlier with Judge Napolitano, and I said, if Marco Rubio was the defense and he came out and was making his case that America wasn't involved, and then the Iranian prosecutor came and dropped, Donald Trump's social media postings, I said, "What happens to the American defense?" He said, "It's out the window." It's clear to anybody that the United States was deeply involved in the not just in the planning, but we set this thing up. I mean, the one of the real harm that's been done to America is our credibility as a nation. We were supposed to be engaged in meaningful diplomatic negotiations with the Iranians to resolve this issue, and that we were getting ready for the sixth round. And by any indication, based upon some of the reporting come out, there were some serious concessions being considered, that Iran was really working forward, working hard to get a deal done. Um, and yet it appears that we weren't negotiating in good faith, that what we were simply doing is buying time to lull the Iranians into a false sense of complacency. When the president puts an emphasis on the Sunday negotiations, and then Benjamin Netanyahu comes out and reinforces that and says, "Yeah, we'll be holding off until Sunday to see what comes out of there." And then, Friday morning or Friday night, Thursday night, they attack, a surprise attack. Look, this is a Pearl Harbor type event. This is a violation of international law. Israel has no justification none whatsoever. Preemptive self-defense, which a lot of people like to cite, requires an imminent threat which cannot be dealt with otherwise. Israel has articulated, the imminent nature of the threat posed by Iran's nuclear program, and yet you can't speak of an imminent threat when Iran is actually in the process of active negotiations to resolve this issue, when these facilities are under monitoring, that there's been no evidence of diversion. I know the IEA put out a report put out by the Board of Governors that says they can no longer guarantee that outcome, but that's just an absurdly um, reached politicized statement. There's no evidence that Iran was diverting, none whatsoever. And the IAEA knows that. But the timing of their report, again, it was deliberate to create the concept of justifiable military intervention. But Israel, they've made no effort. They've made no effort to get the international community engaged. Um, this was an illegal act, an unlawful act, a Pearl Harbor type event. And the United States played a very important role in making it possible.
Yeah, this sounds very similar to Iraq back in 2003, because then it was also attempted to say this was preemptive. But of course, it isn't preemptive. As you said, that has to mean an imminent attack. It's preventive, which is sometime into the future, but that is nowhere near what's supposed to be covered by international law. So, no, I couldn't agree more. This is as illegal as it gets. Um, but what are the wider consequences? You said this was a surprise attack during the negotiation, so being stabbed in the back. How will I guess the negotiations are done? They can't negotiate with the Americans while the American and Israelis are attacking their nuclear reactors. And how or am I? Is this not a fair assumption, or what do you think?
Well, it's not just an assumption. The Iranians have come out and said there won't be any more negotiations. At least the sixth round is canceled, and there's no reason, there's nothing to negotiate now. It is important how Iran moves forward. Right now, they said we will continue to enrich, which means they will continue their nuclear programs, which is their right. But now, how will they deal with the IAEA? I mean, one of the things that this attack has done is destroy the credibility of the IAEA. I know what that means. When I was a weapons inspector in Iraq, I know what happened when the United States used the inspection process to justify not only a strike against Iraq, but to gather intelligence about the targets that were struck. I can guarantee you that the specific aim points that Israel used against the various nuclear infrastructure targets were aim points that were derived from IAEA inspector access to those sites. Because I know that's what happened when the United Nations gained access to sensitive sites in Iraq. The Israelis, the Iranians have captured documents that purport to demonstrate the collusion between Grossi and his IAEA staff and Israel on the Iranian nuclear issue. Um, and now there seems to be direct collusion between Grossi's reporting the work of the board of directors in creating, the facade of legal justification for Israel's actions. Um, how will the IAEA be able to regain its credibility, if possible, if it's even possible, and what will be the role of the IAEA going forward? Let's say that you know Iran doesn't withdraw from the NPT, although they've promised to withdraw from the NPT if their nuclear facilities were struck. I'll just say this. For those people out there who are saying Iran should do this, they should pursue a nuclear weapon, understand this: Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. If that point has been made right now, I don't know how else to make it. Um, this ends. This ends with the demise of the Iranian nuclear program. That's just the reality of it. Um, if Iran can navigate these troubled shoals and bring it into this conflict in a way that allows the theocracy to stay in power, that would be quite the feat. But Iran doesn't emerge from this as a nuclear power. There's many people out there saying Iran should build a bomb. Understand that Iran will never build a bomb. And if it does build a bomb, then American bombs will take out the bomb. We will not allow this to happen. So people need to wipe this fantasy from their minds. And hopefully the Iranian leadership will do the same thing. They don't want America to become directly involved in this war. What they want to do is inflict so much harm on Israel that Israel itself asks for a cessation of this conflict in a way that allows Iran to continue to exist. Um, but from a this is just destabilizing in the extreme. The Iranian nuclear program, will not exist in the way that it it had exist and where the way that Iran wanted it to exist. This is a game-changing event in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, and again, I wanted to ask you my last question if you see this any path, what it looks like, a possible path to wider regional war. Again, the Israeli attacks are ongoing, if I'm not mistaken. They're having
Yeah.
several waves now against Israel. So again, this is happening as we speak. But how do you see this possibly spreading into a regional war, or how do you? Again, it's very hard to make any predictions at this point. But well, what are possible developments from here on as you see it, if you would, I guess,
Well,
look at possible scenarios?
the Israelis have said that if Iran retaliates, what Israel said is, allow us to finish the job. We have begun an attack that's designed to destroy your nuclear infrastructure. What we ask you to do is just sit back and do nothing and let us finish this job. But if you attack us, if you retaliate, then we will strike your oil production facilities. We will basically destroy the viability of the Iranian economy going forward. If, I mean, it would take a miracle of diplomacy, but I do see a scenario in which if this war is limited to Israel blowing up Iran and Iran blowing up Israel, that we can keep it contained to that. Um, But if Israel does attack Iran's oil infrastructure, I think Iran has no point, there's no other option at that point but to take out regional oil production facilities in Saudi Arabia. And again, it appears that Saudi Arabia has been colluding with the United States and Israel to help lull Iran into a false sense of complacency. The Chinese brokered rapprochement appears to have been empty. The visit of the Saudi Minister of Defense to Iran was designed to help Iran lower its guard. That the Gulf Arab states have been colluding with Israel and the United States to bring about this very outcome. Um, if Iran makes a decision to retaliate against regional energy production capabilities, that will be a disaster for the entire world. Then we also have to ask ourselves, what is the role of Russia going forward? Russia signed a strategic framework agreement in January of this year. Iran helped Russia out with drone technology at a critical time in the special military operation, and Iran has been singled out by Israel and the United States for punishment because of this. Um, Russia has built major, economic plans in the future premised on the notion of a north-south economic corridor connecting Russia with Iran, and also working with China on a new Silk Road, which was just proven. A train arrived from China to Tehran just a while back. If the goal of this campaign is, as I believe it is, regime change, that means that the United States and Israel seek to take Iran off the board. And that's very disruptive to the plans of Russia, China. Iran is a BRICS member, and a BRICS member right now is facing an existential fight for its survival. Um, can Russia afford to stay silent on this issue? And what, if anything, can Russia do to help preserve the sovereignty and survivability of one of its close allies? And if Russia does nothing and sits back and allows the United States and Israel to pick Iran off, um, where's the line going to be drawn? So this conflict has great potential of exploding out of control.
Well, Scott Ritter, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.